So we're on question number 5. How does Minwalla's model help partners going through this? You had mentioned a little bit before, but I would like us to take that deeper dive. How is this beneficial for a woman or a partner? Because it doesn't only have to be a woman. There are female sex
Sure,
addicts as well, you
sure.
know, um, that is going through this. How can this model help a partner going through?
Well, my goodness, Minwalla's model highlights two things that had been neglected, seemingly neglected, throughout all the help that we pursued. Number one, how important the voices of victims are. And number two, how abusive it all is. I did not ever hear anybody call what I was going through abuse until my youngest daughter was 13 years old. And so, as a community, I mean, this isn't just within the professional world, this is friends, family, church communities, therapists have been really slow to call these dynamics with sexual betrayal abusive, the lying, the gaslighting, the all the dynamics that Minwalla covers so in detail. And so, my goodness, when I think back, if I had known, if I had if I had had somebody guide me to be aware of how abusive it all was, it would have changed the direction of our life as a family. It could have avoided so many things that we've endured because we were not addressing it with the severity, with as a grave and serious as it all was. So Minwalla has the 22 rooms of trauma that he covers, and so it's so well thought out because he has listened to so many victims. His model is so validating for the partner's experience, and he's still developing it. Like, he's still listening, and it might not just be 22 rooms. There may be other things and patterns and themes that may come out. And so it's super validating. And like you said earlier, I mean, for me, like, the more knowledge, the more validation, and the more honest I get with my experience, the more safe I feel. It's all about safety.
Yeah.
It really is. So Minwalla's model is really prioritizing safety.
Yeah. You know, I appreciate you sharing that. It is, and Wallace's model helps to turn on the lights, as he puts it, right? It's coming out from the shadows and just walking into the light. And so, if we look at it, say, on a biblical tip, right? Because I'm a believer as well, it's refusing to cover yourself over with the fig leaves and just actually standing up there with your nakedness and saying, okay, this is what I have to deal with. This is the real situation. So you can actually get the real help that you actually need, so being able
Yes.
to do that. Also, the validating, as you pointed out, of the partner's voices, important, and calling it for what it is. If it walks like a duck, talks like a duck, it's a duck, right? Let us
Yeah.
not sugarcoat it. Let's just tell the truth about what it is. Because,
Yes.
you know, for me, when I hear the truth, that's the highest form of love. Because God loves us so much, He told us the truth. Y'all are sinful, and that's why I had to come. Okay, he tells us the truth. He's not playing games with us. He's never deceived us. And so, if we talk about love, real love, that agape love, it hinges on truthfulness. You can't love me and not tell me the truth. You can't love me and then be deceptive. That's not love. Okay, because that love, God respects us so much, even though we're so underneath Him, that He tells us the truth about ourselves. And we see that witness in the Bible several times when He had to call out His own and tell them the truth about themselves. Okay, that's love. So for
Amen.
me, you need
Yes.
to be able to tell the truth at all costs. Okay, and that's something that I share with the guys, right, that I'm working with. Are you willing to tell the truth at all costs? Is it more important for you to be than to appear. Okay, because there's a big discrepancy, a big gulf in between there. So what we're talking about here with Minwalla's model is really being, it's embodying that integrity, that truthfulness, that honesty. That's being, okay, not appearing where you're wearing the mask. So it's the removal of masks that they probably have had, because we all have masks, that we've had since our childhood for various reasons, right? Are you willing to unmask yourself and say, okay, you know what? I may not know who I fully am, but I'm willing to find out. Because this is a journey for them as well to find out who they are if they didn't have to deal with all that level 6 stuff in Minwalla's iceberg, right? I- If you're willing to go there, then you're going to discover who you were really meant to be and not who circumstances shaped you to be. Okay, so that's a difference that's going on there.
I
But
love that. Thank you, Michelle. That was wonderful.
oh, huge.
Thank you. I love that.
You're
I
welcome.
love that. Just being and not appearing. And we have to remember, we have to remember that, oh goodness, historically, women have been portrayed as emotionally unstable, incapable of hearing the truth, things like that. So a lot of our we're seeing some deconstruction here from societal messages that have been part of our reality for centuries. And so men are relearning this reality that their wives are capable of hearing this truth. They're capable of seeing them without their masks on. We are wanting to know who they really are, even if it matters, even if it means suffering. Women can suffer. We are geniuses at being able to suffer for the sake of the good. And so men can trust that women can handle the truth, for one, and that they can trust the emotions that come out when they are faced with reality. It's all part of the process if both parties are willing to uh, immerse themselves in it.
Yeah, I'm going to piggyback on that a little bit. I think that women definitely can handle the truth, but I think that the onus is definitely on the sex addict or the abuser not to be cruel.
Oh, of
Okay,
course,
to
right.
actually take into consideration what's been going on with her brain, how her brain is on fire, as Minwalla puts it, right? So the sensitivity and the compassion needs to actually be there.
Of
Okay.
course, yes,
Um,
absolutely. Good point.
yeah, a lot of people talk about, okay, having empathy for her, but there's something called empathy fatigue, which is also very real, and so if you walk in the empathy, don't do it to the extent where you're going to get fatigued. The better option is actually connecting with compassion, which means that there's care and concern, and compassion is what Christ walked with, right?
Mhm,
Because he was the compassionate one, so he wasn't getting fatigued, right? He responded out of that care and that concern, that
mhm,
kindness.
mhm,
Okay. And so that's the little tweak that I would actually make, because like we hear about the IRCA model and stuff like that, where it's connect with her with empathy, but that empathy can really make you tired. So even in my own practice, I am not connecting as much with empathy anymore because I've been getting tired. And I'm like, something, I'm going to do the compassion where I connect with you with concern, right? But I don't really want to
That's
walk
interesting.
too much in the moccasins because that's me taking on the burden, right? Of what it is the person is going through. And it can be very weighty, so I would put that out there.
Well,
But
but then again, Michelle, for the men who take Minwalla's course, he calls it mountain work, and it is exhausting.
yes, it
It
is.
is
Yes,
be
it is.
They need to be
Yes, it
ready
is.
for it, because
Yes, it is.
getting up on a mountain and seeing the village that has been destroyed and everything is not for the faint of heart.
No, it's
And
not. It's not.
so I really admire courageous men who get on that mountain and do the work of compassion, empathy, repair, suffering with, allowing themselves to really take in the reality of what is going on, for their wife, for their families, for their children, for the whole community, how it's been affected. But it's mountain work.
I agree. I agree
Yeah.
that it is mountain work, but I would put this out because this is the way that I usually deal with it with the men in my
Okay.
groups.
Okay.
You know, with everything you're learning, a baby doesn't just start running. The baby has to actually start crawling first, and then they start to get their footing. And so, with everything, there is a learning curve and it's a process. Okay, as
Yeah.
long as you're willing to go through that, even when you're trying to develop your muscles, right? You don't start working out today and then all of a sudden you're looking like Mr. Atlantis. You don't. Okay,
Right.
so it's a gradual process, but you have to be willing to actually commit to the process.
Yes.
Okay, because it can become overwhelming. It can become daunting if you're like, well, I have to get all this now. It can be a lot of pressure, and that knowing that you will never measure up initially like this, okay, can actually be discouraging for some.
Yeah.
So in order to get them to stay in there, okay, you're a baby right now. That means that you're going to stumble, you're going to fall. You have to get your bearing underneath you. And the same way that we have patience with babies when they're going through that process, I invite them. I'm going to have patience with you as you're going through this process. Your partner might not, but in this space, you're going to have support to be able to hold you up as you're trying to get your bearing. Okay, because that's important.
Yeah, that's
It's
so good,
important.
Michelle. Very good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, for sure. Especially so much of addiction, addictive behaviors, and patterns and habits that have been developed, they don't die easily.
No,
So
no,
the
no, they
baby
don't.
step approach and just making sure that they're patient with themselves is so critical. I love what you said.
Thank you. The last point I want to just point out there is about with Minwalla's model is it's a humanitarian approach. And what I like, and the way that I use it in conjunction with something I call solace, which is an African form of poetry, which actually connects the humanity of one with the other, right? I am because you are. So it's actually being able to start to help the men to connect with themselves. So this way they can actually connect with their partners. Okay. And recently I started even weaving in the IFS work, the internal family systems work, the parts work. Okay, because the addiction is a part. It came in for a reason. So getting that understanding rather than judging it, criticizing it, and saying it's just absolutely terrible, because then you're saying part of me is just horrible. And you treat it like this stepchild that has to stay in a dark room. Why did it come in? What's the story? To be able to have some kind of compassion and empathy towards that part of you is important, because with the IFS model, one of the 8 C's is compassion, right? And that self, your true self, is full of compassion, curiosity, creativity, right? Confidence. So when we talk about being able to help them to resource, it's important that they realize that there are no bad parts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because that opens the way for shame, and shame is another part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so don't want to shut down their process of being able to do healthy recovery. Okay,
Right.
so being able to give them that level of grace is important to do. Okay,
What was
as they're
the?
doing
Can
this
you
work.
spell? Can you spell that? You said that along with the humanitarian approach, you use the other one.
Casalas.
How do you spell that?
Okay, Kasala. Yeah, Casalas. Yeah,
Kas.
Kasala.
Okay. Oh, I've never heard of that before. Hmm.
No, it's again, it's from Africa.
Mhm.
I'm a level 3 trainer with that. And so I just wove that into my work that I do with the men, in my
Nice.
life integrity course, because I found it helpful in terms of getting them to connect with their emotions. And then we use that to help them connect with their partner's emotions. And a lot of the exercises, I have them writing it from their partner's point of view, and then eventually they share with their partner. So this way it helps them to be able to connect on that emotional level with them. So several of them were able to make books,
Good.
from the
I
work that
love
we did.
that.
So yeah, it was very helpful for them.
I love that. I'm
Thank
gonna look
you.
it up. Yeah, very
Yeah,
good.
thank you. Yeah. So that's what we can see how Minwalla's model can help the partner going through this, and then also how it can also help the sex addict, right? The abuser.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Because it's calling out what is. No more pretending,
Mm-hmm.
no more falsehood. We're dealing with what is. And that's the best starting place. Okay.
Yes.
Nothing's going to work if we are addressing the problem that doesn't exist, right? You have to
Right.
address the one that exists. So that means that we need to know the truth. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's important.